that?
Hey, Turd!
Hey, welcome.
Can we come in?
Yeah, please do. Welcome to the house that Turd Ferguson built.
Yeah.
I honestly would say that the overall space, like the openness, is more designed for him. Equally me, but let's say 40% me, 60% him, because he loves to run around. He loves to throw and chase a ball. You know what I mean? Like he's real active. Like today feels like it's 100 degrees outside. I don't want to go throw a ball with him outside. So if I want to be upstairs or back in the kitchen or something and throw a ball all the way across the house, he's got room to really run and chase it and slide around and do all that stuff. So from a standpoint of, as weird as it sounds, yes, some of that was thought of in all seriousness when I was trying to design how I wanted the space to be. And then not only that, but he's got his own entrance VIP kind of door in the back for him to be able to go outside during the day.
Is that little back door way back there?
Yeah, you see the little tiny square light like somewhere over here. But yeah, that's his little private door. Nobody else uses it other than him. So if I had to say like a number one criteria for the design aspect of it, really and truly my whole focus was doing something different, probably more than like saying I want this and this and this and this. I wanted an open space. My whole life I've lived in houses or apartments or whatever, and it's this little box and that little box, and then you got 3 doors to go from box to box. And I'm not claustrophobic, but I didn't like that confining feeling. I like being outside. I don't like being outside when it's hot, but I like being outside any other time. So the closest I could get, I guess, to that feeling was to just try and build something that was just like an open bubble. You know, I live in an open bubble, and then I've got this little part that has my bed, and I've got this little part that has my bathroom, but like everything's open and kind of flows throughout. Nothing's trapped in one little room.
That's one of the things I can say I love about this space is, because I'm particular to spaces like that myself, I like air, and I like openness. I like feeling connected to nature and to the outdoors. And one thing it's like when you walk into this space, it feels it's industrial, but
that was part of it.
But the wood and everything else makes you feel like you're in a barn or something.
Yeah.
And it's just all this light and air being able to come in through the space, and it feels incredible. It's incredibly cool in here too when you walk in. So I know, like,
yeah, it actually is cooler than you would think it would be. You know what I mean? It's for temperature-wise, I guess, is my aspect of it. Now, as far as you probably just hit the nail on the head. I grew up between the city and the country all my life, but I guess like as far as like my inner soul kind of thing, I like the country better than I like the city. Can't live in the country, I have to live in the city, but I wanted to kind of have a little part of that. So I'd always thought it would be cool if I could fix up one of my grandparents' old barns or something and then be able to live inside of an old barn, but then it's not practical because you'll never be able to keep it cool, you'll never be able to keep it hot, you know what I'm saying? So then the whole concept was, well, I can just try and make a house that wasn't an old barn, just build the inside of it to make it feel like it's an old barn, right? But then if it's an old barn, you still have to make it modern to be able to make it livable. So then it was like, okay, well, I like the industrial kind of thing, mechanical aspects. I like those things in designs. I'm not a fan at all of paint colors or carpets or fabrics. Like, that's not my thing. So if I'm building an old barn and then I can turn things into that and make it seem like, okay, well, I renovated an old barn, but I wanted the inside to be like a modern industrial feel. In here, because it's such a big space, right, and all this is built inside of a complete solid metal skin, the metal right now, if it's 100 degrees outside, that metal might be 140, right? So if I want to keep it 70 degrees inside, but it's 140 degrees outside, and I've only got 8 inches between my inside and that outside 140, that 8 inches is what's your thermal barrier, basically. So in here, everything is completely sprayed solid with like 7 inches thick of spray foam, which spray foam is like the newer way that people are going into doing insulation work. So it's got all that spray foam inside of it, which in turn makes it like an R35. So the energy efficiency level in this home is almost twice as much as what you get in a standard, like what they consider a stick-built home, which would have, like brick on the outside, wood framing, insulation in between the framing, and then sheetrock on the inside. What I did on the ceiling was I kind of, I guess, did like a paint process, so to speak, to try and make it look like the ceiling's like kind of like a cave, because it already had that texture with the way the spray foam goes on there. I didn't want to cover the ceiling with anything because I'd feel like it was kind of closing in on the space that I'm trying to make bigger. All the lighting in here, I'm not going to take full credit for it because Turd Ferguson helped, but all the lighting inside the space, I'm going to say we, because he was there sitting with me drawing it on paper trying to figure it out. We designed and built all the lighting in here to be like an industrial kind of feel. So I just made the top try and look like a cave. Then on the sides, I didn't want the whole thing to be black like that, so I had to come in and do the reclaimed wood on the walls to give it that barn feeling that I was going for. Then as far as the concrete, this style of building requires that you have to have a concrete slab and a solid concrete foundation to hold up the post and beam structure. Concrete's another one of those things that I pretty much do on a daily basis, so luckily I had, I guess, the ability and the tools and the know-how to be able to do something to it that I felt would make it look different, look cool, and be a finished floor. You asked me about the design of the house. This house was designed around that idea of the car. I didn't have the car at the time. I'd been looking for one or trying to get to the point to where I could build one, but the whole thing was, I knew a car was going to be in my house and become a piece of furniture, so to speak. The concept behind the car is kind of like I've got an indoor drive-in theater in my house. So if I want to have the feeling of there's not really any more drive-in theaters. So if I want to go to a drive-in theater, there's not one around, I can sit in the car, I can open up a bag of popcorn, Turd can sit in the passenger seat, and we can sit there and look right into the TV. So that was a main design feature, but then also just on the other side of the car, the main, what I call the focal point kind of within the space, other than the car, is the staircase. I knew I wanted a spiral staircase. I just had to have a spiral staircase. As a kid, I had a family member that had one in their house, used to be able to slide down the rails. Everything about it was cool. So that was another design aspect that turned into I'm gonna call it a major project within itself, within this space, and within this entire project as well, because I couldn't find what I wanted. I could buy something out of a box, but anybody could buy something out of a box. Never built a spiral staircase in my life. Again, I have the ability to be able to work with wood. I kind of do that on a daily basis. I was a metal worker and a welder for years and years, kind of in my lot younger life. But I wanted to kind of incorporate what this space was into the staircase. I ended up having to design the staircase, bend all the metal, cut all the boards, figure out how I was going to install it, where I was going to get the materials from. So it grew and grew and grew into, it wasn't just a staircase, like it was almost like I felt like I was building a house. I felt like I completed building a house when I got done building just the staircase.
I believe that.
But then I had to build everything else in here around the staircase. So.
Well, you have also these different texture tones in here, from metal to wood, concrete, foam. I love the different textures, and you have kind of this, the color tones is, I don't know if we call that burgundy red or not.
Yeah, that's
but
kind of
it's
burgundy.
burgundy mixed with copper, coppers and blues. So where do these colors inspire, or these textures kind of
I've
come
had
from?
a lot of people, friends and family, ask me that, and the only thing I can say is like somewhere up in these wheels that are moving. I really don't know.
They just look good and they feel good.
I like red. You know what I mean? Like I don't. People say things about certain colors mean certain things. I don't know what it means, but I like red. Not a lot of red, but I like red. The whole design aspect of this entire house was basically mixing three elements to make everything: wood, metal, and concrete. Just those three. Most homes are going to end up having sheetrock, or they're going to end up having I guess like carpet or laminate. You've got a lot of things that aren't really I guess like the core basics of building, which are metal, wood, and concrete.
The coolest aspect of this house is it's so unexpected when you come into the
like
space.
that
Because
was-
when you're outside, can you describe that? It's like dark black, and you've got the cool contrast with these red glass
doors.
garage doors. But then you come into this space, and it's
Yeah, that was kind of what I wanted. I wanted, like, when you're pulling up, you think of it like, well, it's like, and it's kind of like a commercial style building. It's just a metal building, but when you pull up to it, it just looks like a metal building. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like there's, obviously it's garage doors, so you think there's gonna be stuff parked inside or something like that. You're not really expecting it to be a home. Or when you walk into it, you're not expecting it to try and look like it was an old barn that was converted to modern living. So I kind of like that surprise factor as far as if somebody's coming in to look at it. So it will kind of catch you off guard a little bit, but in the same token, when it's kind of like we were just talking about blending the three basic building materials, wood, metal, and concrete. Well, in this particular concept, I wanted to kind of do a mix of not different materials, but almost like different time lapses, right? So like the outside of this structure is like a modern 21st century, we'll call it, build as far as the materials and the design of it. Well, when you walk inside, like for example, I've got the baseboard in here. I don't know if you can see it well, but that's old reclaimed slate tiles from roofing. The baseboards in here, the materials are over 100 years old. I think that's super cool. The staircase, the wood blocks that I had to get and cut to be able to make the steps, those are reclaimed beams from an old mill in Mississippi that was dated back to being built before the Civil War. So you know those trees were cut down before 1850, but then there's tree rings that I can count that go over 225 rings. So the tree was cut down in 1850, but at that time it was already over 200 years old. So then I end up with, I've got that material in the staircase, which if you want to talk about old reclaimed materials, that's over 400-year-old lumber basically. So that whole like old to new from outside to inside is kind of what I wanted to go with. I'm kind of that older, I'm not an old guy, but I feel like my views might be a little older. I think old is cool. New is okay, it's modern, but it's not really that cool. So to be able to know that I can't build the outside of my house to look like it's 400 years old or use 400-year-old lumber, I'll take the modern aspects, which are practical as far as cost and design. It's appealing to most people. So then I'll take that, and then on the inside of it, I'm just gonna spin it and flip it inside outward kind of thing, to where, yeah, it's not at all what you think it's gonna be